Welcome back to another episode of What Do I Know with me? And today it's all about upping your game. So listen up, high achievers. We're diving deep into the world of personal branding and effective communication with the incredible Georgina Chang. Georgina is a renowned branding and communications coach and mentor known for her transformative work with A-list celebrities and senior executives. In today's episode, Georgina will share her expertise and provide practical tips and strategies to help you communicate more effectively, whether you're speaking at a meeting or attending a networking event. We'll explore how to build a strong personal brand that reflects your authentic self, project an executive presence that commands respect, and manage the fear of public speaking that holds so many of us back. Now, I know many of us are busy balancing professional and personal responsibilities, and that can be pretty overwhelming. Initiating conversations in social settings or at networking events, projecting confidence at work, or even managing anxiety around public speaking are just some of the pain points we face. Now, I'm a mom of 2 young kids going to school, so they've also got class presentations and video assignments, and it falls on us, parents, to help them overcome that fear of public speaking. What can we do to help them build confidence? What can we do for ourselves to help ourselves build confidence? I'm pretty sure you'll find this episode useful. So let's dive in and learn from one of the best in the industry. Hi, Georgina.
Hi, Joanne.
Thanks for coming to my show. And I wanted to give my listeners a little bit of context about you and I. Okay. So for the record, Georgina is my ex-boss when she was heading the celebrity agency in MediaCorp. And later on, we reconnected in a rather interesting way because that was during COVID. And then the both of us were taking this online entrepreneur course. And you were trying to establish yourself as a coach at that time. And then I was trying to establish myself as a edupreneur for the Dimple Loft. And then I think as classmates, we were going through like some of the notes and what we learned in class. And I think I shared with you that I was dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome, which we will also talk about in the episode later on. And I think that was pretty much how we started talking. And I remember you worked through this whole me feeling guilty about playing as well. So I found that really useful. And the reason why I wanted you to come in to share some of your expertise is also because after COVID, after the pandemic, we suddenly had a surge of events. I find myself having to dress up and go for events and meet a lot of people that some of them I'm familiar with, but we haven't spoken in a long time. And some people are just important people, but we don't know them. And I actually found myself struggling. I didn't know how to initiate conversations or start conversations. And when people say like, hey, hi, how are you? Right? It's like, okay, I've just been cooped up at home. I don't really have anything to say. And I don't want to just end at, oh, I'm fine, thank you, full stop. Which is very common when people say, how are you? And then you just sort of end there. And of course, I mean, with practice and the more you go, the more at ease I became. But I feel like it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm effective in communicating. So that's why I was hoping that you could come in and share some of your expertise, because I do believe that it's something that a lot of us can learn and we can do better. Yep.
Yes.
So tell me, like, about starting conversations. I mean, that is probably one of the hardest things, when you go into an environment that is so, it can be scary because there's a lot of unfamiliar people around. And maybe you feel like you haven't got anything productive, that you haven't been doing anything productive or anything groundbreaking that you can share, right? Then how do you start talking? How do you go beyond that? I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, so the first thing I always tell everyone is that communication is very contextual. Okay, so what works in one situation may not work in another. It
Okay.
depends on who the people are. What is the context? Is it a big space, small space? All these things matter. So I'm hearing your context specifically, someone who feels that she's cooped up at home, hasn't done anything interesting. What do I say after that? So from your context, you had that bar that, I must be doing these amazing, groundbreaking things, as you said. Then I have something to talk about. So that's the expectation you're putting on yourself. When actually people are happy to see you, hey, how are you? You can say, hey, I'm happy. And then if you don't want to talk about what you've done yet, turn it back on them. How have you been? What have you been up to? How are you doing?
And if they go, good, 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 full stop.
If they say good, good, just say, what are you working on now? When was the last time we saw each other?
Right.
Just little things to prompt them to talk about themselves. And when they talk about themselves, then you'll start to have this high expectation. What am I going to say? You start to ease into it.
Right.
And then they might ask you, hey, so I saw that last project you're in. Wow, that looked good. I know it's a few years ago, the last Madame. Wow, that was amazing. Then you can talk about that because to you, you're thinking, right now, I didn't do anything groundbreaking. But to them, they remember the things you did and they want to know about it.
Right. So what happens if they don't help you in that way, right? They just come in, oh, how are you? What have you been working on? And then you're like, actually, I've just been lazing at home. I'm not doing anything. Or maybe you are working on something that you just can't share because it's, private and confidential at this moment. So like, do we need to arm ourselves with like, a list of things before we go for an event like that? Or, before we go to even a party, right? So that, we can just pull it up straight away if someone asks, like, what are you working on or what are you doing?
So that's a good strategy. And I like the words that you use, do we need to arm ourselves? It's like one of my clients, he had said that he was going for a networking event. He said he went there, he saw like a wall of people and it's very daunting. How do you break through, all these people? And I said, it's just how you see it, right? Visually. For you, it's like a little bit like a battlefield. Arm myself. For him, it was that wall that's keeping him out.
Right.
So it's how you visualize this networking event that puts you in that state of mind. And I'll go into how you arm yourself in a while. It is a strategy. It's another client who also doesn't like networking and always feels like, oh, how do I keep the conversation going? I don't know what to say. So I had coached her through it based on her specific, how she sees it and the situation, the context. So when she was approaching the event after we had done our coaching, she got out of the lift and she was so excited to tell me. As I got out of the lift walking there, I told myself, it starts from here. It starts from here. And she walked in and she was so delighted. She said, at the event, I was like talking to this person, talking to that person. And usually at networking events, I have to go look for my boss and wait for him because I had no one to talk to. But she said this time, at the end of the event, she turns around, she's like, oh, her boss is there waiting for her. She's like, wow, she was like crushing it. So it was her state of mind going in.
Right.
So for you, when you think, oh, do I have to arm myself? I do advise clients when you go to a networking event, if it's not your favorite thing, you have to be prepared. Like any sort of performance or any sort of thing you're about to do, which is not your habit, you have to be prepared, right? So a few things you have to do is prepare your elevator pitch. When people say, oh, so what do you do? Who are you? And you don't have to do that because, the advantage of being famous is people aren't going to ask you things like that. But they'll ask you, what are you working on next? The other thing you also want to prepare is, what are things that you're happy to share, happy to tell? Because you never know who you're going to talk to, who you can actually connect with, who would go, oh, I know someone who can help you with that, or I know someone who's looking for that. And have a list of questions that you want to ask people. And this is what I advise my clients as well. Go in with just 3-4 questions. What did you like about this event? What did you like about the speaker? Who do you know here? Who would you like to meet? So it's like what and who questions. Then get them to start talking. It's always about, if you feel that you have to get the conversation going, it's about asking them questions.
And what happens if you ask and people just give you one-word answers or they themselves are not comfortable talking a lot?
Do you experience that?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll tell you why. Sometimes people are tongue-tied or intimidated or starstruck because it's you, right? When they meet someone, they're like a bit like, remember what's going on in the mind. They're trying to think, okay, I need to put a good impression to this person, And I see very often like the top chairman or a famous thought leader comes in, people get a bit like, right? It's that feeling, oh, what do I say? What do I say? And then they go blank. And that's why they give you one-word answers. But it's not that they don't have a conversation. They're here and they're feeling very self-conscious.
Right.
So I'm visualizing that for you. But of course, I'm not there, so I don't know what's really happening. You need to sense it as well. If you feel that they are feeling awkward, intimidated, and this is for anyone who's like a very senior leader, right? People are like, oh, I'm scared, it's the senior boss. Then it's your role to make them feel comfortable. And it's how you switch your mind to stop thinking that, oh, I have to perform what I do. It's now about, let me help this person feel comfortable. And then your questions are a bit different. So who are you here with? Make it a little bit more social. And then from their answers, you can kind of tell after a while, after 2 questions, they kind of warm up a bit when they feel that you're interested in them. Then they're like, wow, you're so nice. They're talking to me. Then they start to open up.
Have you ever encountered situations where you're trying to talk to someone and then they just, I don't know if it's they don't want to talk to you or they're just not equipped to be able to hold that conversation?
Then you have to quickly assess.
Right.
If I can tell when someone doesn't want to talk to you. You can tell by their body language, the eye contact. It's always the eye contact, right?
Oh.
I'll do the demonstration, and you're talking to someone, and they're like, "Oh yeah." They're looking for someone better that they want to talk to, or someone more important, someone they can get something from. Then I would just end the conversation there because you're not interested in talking to me, and I'm not enjoying this. So, hey, great to meet you. I catch you another time, and I'll just go. And they are relieved that you've left because they can now zoom in on the person that they were looking for. You can sense eye contact. But sometimes some people are uncomfortable with eye contact and kind of look down, right? But looking down is fine. They're a little bit shy and they're a little bit, they feel a bit, again, the word intimidated. And that's fine. But you can tell by the body language, are they facing you? Or are they leaning away and moving away? You can tell all these nuances.
Right. So you can also tell from the body language whether or not maybe it's just a lack of confidence on their own.
Yes.
Like maybe totally nothing to do with us or me.
Yeah.
But just them, like they're just not comfortable in that situation or in that environment.
Yeah.
Through that body language.
Yes. So the key thing about communication is always about looking at the other person. Because when we focus on us, then we get very self-conscious. What do I say next? I have to give a good impression. Or did I say the right thing? Oh no, I'm making a mistake. And that really messes up with the actual connection. But when you actually turn your attention on the other person that you're talking to, and you focus on them, and they can feel that you're present with them. And everyone feels good when, if I'm talking to you and you're listening to me and you're present, they feel heard.
Yes.
They feel seen.
Yes.
And that makes them like you. And that makes them feel connected.
I totally get what you're saying because I have this problem with my husband. I mean, probably not relevant to networking, but I always have this complaint about him. I say, you're not listening to me. I am. You're not. Why? Because this eye contact, he doesn't give me eye contact. I mean, obviously sometimes, you're sitting together, you're not really like sitting in this manner and you're not looking. But even, sometimes just having a meal, we're sitting in exactly this configuration. And then I'm talking and then he's just not looking at me. And he claims, he says he's paying attention, but I would feel like you're not. And then he doesn't acknowledge either. So there's no like, or okay. Like there's no words of acknowledgement. There's no like, like you're nodding your head now and I sense that you're listening to me and understanding what I'm saying, but he has none of it. And so I've got this like biggest complaint. I'm like, are you hearing me or not? Are you listening to me or not? Yeah, I'm listening to you. I say, why don't you respond? And he'll be like, yeah, but I don't know what to respond to what you're saying. I mean, what you're saying is just what you're saying. And okay, I agree. Yeah, but there's no cue at all, So I totally get this from you about the eye contact and all that.
So this is a classic expectations, right, from couples, which, and I would just, make it clear, obviously, I've had conversations and meals with him. He's actually very attentive. I can read the cues. He's there. He's listening. He actually has a very intense gaze. And this is one of the things I notice about him. When he looks, right, when he's giving you eye contact, he's studying you.
Right.
I can see that, a few times I've been studied by him.
So he's not studying me anymore.
Well, he doesn't need to, right? This is the first few times I met him and he actually just studied and it's very intense gaze. So for him, that's what his eye contact is for, is to study you, to assess you. But when he's more comfortable, he doesn't need to use that anymore because his vision has told him this person is trustworthy. I trust this person. I'm comfortable with this person. But for you need to have the affirmations to know that you are being seen and heard. And for him, that's not what he needs. So maybe sometimes it's also when you're speaking, if you want to get a grunt from him or something, ask a question.
Right.
And that's also a good way to know if he's still paying attention. Because when you're speaking, sometimes you're just talking, you're just verbalizing. And as you said, right, what I hear you saying is that he doesn't know what you want him to do. So guys, and with him, he likes to solve the problem for you. He wants to take care of you. He likes to take care of people. So if he feels like, okay, it's not a problem, it's not a question, I don't know what to do. So he does nothing. It's like literally he's like a wooden tree. We talked about this. It's like, I will help you. I'll be there for you. But if you don't give me a clear what you need, I can't do anything. I'm just going to be a tree here. So give him more guidance. You want the ask question.
Right.
Do you agree? What do you think?
Yeah.
How do you feel? Am I thinking right? Is there something I'm missing?
Right, right. Okay. That's a very good tip. Actually, earlier on, you mentioned about one of your clients, right? Walking in and seeing a wall. I don't, of course, I don't know what the context is, but it got me thinking about this situation where, you walk into a room and you're seeing a bunch of people and everyone seems to be having their own conversation. Like, how do you break
in?
Yeah, like sort of break in without being rude,
And that's again the language, like you said, it's like myself, I have to break in, right? So you're thinking of it as a battlefield.
Right.
So I would have to coach you quietly on how to readjust so that you don't think of it as a battlefield, because then you are tense, right? When you're ready for battle, you're all like ready to fight. So when you see a wall, and first thing I said, change the language. Don't look at it as walls, right? They're obviously just people, groups of people. And that's the thing. If you don't know a lot of people, then when people are in cliques, groups, I'll be a little bit more attentive. So if it's the easiest thing to do, and this is what I told him as well, look for the person as a start. Somebody who's close to the side of the wall by themselves, looking a bit lost, because they're also lost and they don't know how to break in. Go to that person. Hi, I'm Georgina. What's your name? And they'll suddenly be quite grateful. Someone came and talked to them. Then you have those questions, right? Oh, who do you know here? What did you like about this event? What's your purpose coming here? Anything based on the context. And they feel relieved, they'll start talking to you. So that's the easiest. If you see two people, I'll be a bit more careful, because sometimes two people, the conversation's a bit more intimate or intense. And if they just met each other, they're trying to get to know each other. So if someone breaks in, it's like you're interrupting us. If it's a slightly larger group, it's usually a bit easier, less pressure, and people go, what, a large group? But you have to hover on the outskirts and listen to what they're talking about. And you can quickly assess, is this a group of people who know each other very well? They're in the same company or they're all old friends. Then, it's not so easy to join them, because they're obviously enjoying that inner circle, private conversation or private chat. And you are the stranger coming in, they'll all be like, we want to talk about our things. But if you hear them talking about, let's say, a trend, a world situation, something in general, and you notice there's one person who's talking and there's the rest at the side just nodding, then this is not a tight group. Right. If it's not a tight group, you hover, you wait for a break. You can just address the leader in the group. Don't address someone at the side. Address the leader like, hey, the leader who's talking, hey, John, that was really interesting what you just said. I had just read, or I also have a question. That's how you introduce yourself in, right? You're having a conversation. And after everyone has that conversation, then you can start to, oh, I'm Joanne. Oh, who are you? Then you start introducing yourself. So that's just one strategy. There's many, again, based on context.
Any common ones that most of your clients need help on? Common problems that most of your clients need help on?
In general?
Yeah.
When it comes to public speaking, and public speaking is anytime you have to speak to a group of people.
Right. Actually, we talk about conversations first.
Okay, conversations.
Networking events.
Usually the networking is like
the most common
what we just spoke about, like what we just said. How do I start socializing or talking to people? Because it feels scary, right? To go and approach someone. And the other one is when we start talking, the awkward silence, right? What do I do? What do I say? So those are the common problems.
What do I do? What do I say?
So like I said, have some questions. And even from the questions, you can tell whether the person is interested in talking to you, has things that you feel connected with. Because sometimes after 3 questions, you're not feeling it. Hey, it was great to meet you, John. And then elegantly move to another conversation. No need to pull your teeth whilst you're there.
I mean, so that sounds to me like that's the best way to end the conversation gracefully. Right?
But several ways as well.
Okay, let's. Because sometimes when you meet someone and you talk to them and suddenly you realize, actually, I don't really like this person, or, the vibe is not right, and you just want to kind of leave. So then, I mean, I suppose, how do you end conversations gracefully without being rude?
Yeah. So you never want to make the person feel bad or cut off, right?
Yeah.
So it's always good to have a drink in your hand, right? A drink in your hand.
Okay.
Networking event, drink in your hand.
Okay.
Water, soda, champagne, anything.
Okay.
And if you're thinking this is not going anywhere, start drinking a bit faster and go, oh, hey, I'm going to top up another drink. Would you like one? And they'll say yes or no, right? And then you can say, okay, I'll catch up with you again. Then you go and get your drink. So it's not about them. My drink is empty.
Right.
So that's one way. Some people like to use this like, oh, I'm sorry, I need to go to the toilet. Do you mind? So that one's a bit more obvious that you're trying to get away. But the drink is always good because it breaks that conversation. It breaks the pattern. And if they say, oh, no, I'm fine, thanks, then you can move on. But if you say, oh, yeah, I'll come with you, that's fine. Because as you're walking through the room, you might see someone else. You go, hey, Peter, how are you? Hey, meet John. And then you can start having like a three-way conversation where the pressure's not just on you. And they start talking, you can go, hey, I'm just going to top up my drink. And you just walk off.
Right.
So easy way to just ease it off. I heard someone, someone had this strategy, which I don't quite agree with. They said, oh, you don't want to be in this conversation anymore. You go, hey, Peter, there's someone I want you to meet. I think you get so much in common. Charles, come, Charles, this is Peter. You guys have so much in common. I'll leave you to it. And then you go off. And then Charles and Peter are looking at each other like, what the? So this person said that, oh, that's the best way to do it. And I think it's not really nice because I've been the recipient of that. Someone plucked me and I'm like, and we looked at each other blankly. We're obviously, we're dumped on each other. And no one wants to feel that. So it's, I don't feel that's very pleasant for the person who's on the receiving end.
Right. Okay.
Unless you know that, oh, my gosh, you're just talking about crypto and John is a big fan. Okay, you guys know so much. I'm going to introduce you. Then they take off and they talk about it.
And you probably also need to give some context, like to both parties, like why you think both of them. Like if you genuinely think both of them are great for each other, rather than just I'm just trying to offload one from me.
You say that, oh, we're just talking about crypto. I don't know much, but I know you are an expert. So they're talking about this latest, and then they'll naturally start talking about it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Any other tips for ending conversations gracefully?
Usually I like the glass, or if you happen to see someone walk past that you can just kind of like, hey, Susan, how are you? Susan, this is Peter. Hey, and then you can start having just a three-way conversation.
Right.
I mean, don't exclude them and suddenly, hey, Susan, I haven't seen you for so long. And then poor Peter is just like, just have a little bit of a three-way conversation about something, but you keep glancing back at Peter because you don't want Peter to feel excluded. And you just talk about, make it a bit more general. And after a while, Peter doesn't like it. Peter will go, hey, excuse me, I need to go. I'm like, okay, sure.
Has it ever happened where you can't remember people's names?
Yes.
Like, how do you overcome that? Like, you could just be introduced to this person. You're having a great conversation with this person, but you're like, oh no, I can't remember. What's this person's name? And then someone comes along and you're like,
Okay, so yeah, especially when you've met a lot of people that night, it's quite hard sometimes.
Right.
Two things that I would do. Oh dear, I'm putting out. If someone comes in and introduce, you just say, oh, Mary, we were just talking about something, whatever, this is my friend Mary. Then you just leave it as a blank and you hope that this person will go, oh, hi, Mary, I'm Peter.
Right.
You hope, right? Happens sometimes, doesn't always happen. The other thing is you can say, hey, I really need to get your contact details. Yeah. If you take a phone number, you can just say, how do I spell your name? Yeah, it's Peter. So the best tool I found now is LinkedIn, especially in a professional context. It's great. Right. Like, hey, let's be connected on LinkedIn. What's your LinkedIn name?
Right.
How do I find you on LinkedIn?
Right.
Or you ask them to, there's different ways that you can elicit their name again. So these are two things that especially LinkedIn, is wonderful.
So if you're not in a professional context, I suppose you can say Instagram or some other social media. But Instagram doesn't really give you the name because, we can come up with.
That's fine. Then you find a profile, but you'll see their name somewhere, right? If you don't see, you go, hey, your name isn't here. Something like that.
You're right.
Or sometimes you can say, hey, what do your friends call you? Peter.
Is it just rude if you just tell the person very honestly that I'm so sorry I forgot your name?
That's fine. It's fine because it's in the first conversation. It's fine. And that's what I resort to sometimes if I really can't. I'm like, Maribel. Maribel, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then make sure you remember it, right?
Yeah, I know, because sometimes it's just, especially if it's not English names.
Yeah, that's a bit harder.
It can be hard to remember.
Yeah, so I think there's a little bit more of a leeway because people would know that their names are a bit harder to remember. So when you kind of say, okay, it's leisure, and then they'll repeat it. I say, okay, I'm so sorry, can you spell it? So then you find your own strategy to how to remember. So I need to see the name like visually, then I can remember it. Like if it's a name that I'm not familiar with,
Okay.
then I would spell it in my mind. I'm like, okay, and I repeat it a few times.
Wow. A lot of homework to do actually when
It is.
when you're at an event like that.
Yeah, it's not easy. It takes a lot of effort. And I had I read about Bill Clinton, the former U.S. president, and how when he's at these events and he meets like thousands of people all the time, and everyone wants to talk to him. So for him, it's not so much about the name, and I think people don't have the expectation that you will remember my name. But I'm told that sometimes he does. I think it was him or was it George Bush who remembers everybody's name. I think that's a phenomenal trait. But what Bill Clinton does is when he's speaking to you, he makes you feel like you are the most important person in the room. Just the way he looks at you, he's totally absorbed there. And I heard this anecdote from Gillian Anderson, who was the actress on X-Files. She said, all of us were there to meet, Bill Clinton. We're also excited. It was my turn. You speak to him for a while. And then it's time to move on to talk to the next person. And as he turns away, as he moves away, he'll turn around and give you that last look. And then he'll turn away. And it's just that last look that he gave her. She's like, oh, I was so sure he was going to like message me that night. Well, I'm so sure. Of course he didn't. But I'm sure every woman felt that, oh, he's going to message me. So it's how you make them feel. So little things like if you didn't forget their name at the moment, it's fine. It's how you make them feel in that moment.
Well, that's interesting. I've never met someone like that who would give me that last look. Have you?
I've not met someone who gave me a last look like that, but I have met someone who had quite intense eye contact.
Not my husband.
Oh no, he has very intense. But for him, it's because he is, like I said, right? He's sizing, and I told him this as well. I said, yeah, the first time I met you, were like sizing, and I had introduced him to another manager, and he was sizing, and it's very polite. He does it. He's just looking. I can see, it's just your natural way of just trying to feel comfortable and understand the person. But this was years ago, many years ago. They had an event and Gordon Ramsay was in Singapore. And I went and I was like, oh, I see Gordon Ramsay. And I saw him walking from, far away, right? And I was holding, I think it was like a cookout. So I was holding like, I don't know, chicken rice. And also, of course, I'm not going to talk to him, but I was like holding my food. I'm looking at him and I'm just starstruck, right? Because he was at the height of his popularity. I was just watching him weave through the crowd, walking. And as he came closer to me, he's weaving. He looked straight at me. He continued walking. And just that 1.5 seconds that he looked straight at me, I felt so seen by Gordon Ramsay. He saw me. He knows I exist. That's the feeling I had. Because it really, when it's so intense, it really like it's like energy. Everything is energy. It's like that energy that he transmuted to me. And I just woke up. I was like, ooh.
What do you think was going on in his mind when he does that?
As I watch him throughout the crowd, and he's, a lot of celebrities I notice, when they walk through crowds, they usually are surrounded by their people. So it's like an entourage, a wall to protect them, right? Because they don't have the contact. But now it's different. You want to have that contact with people. He was one of those who's walking through a crowd, and he was in his element working. But obviously he's still very famous, and he's just walking unescorted, just walking through the crowd. And he was actually connecting people. He was looking, he was studying, he was looking at people. He was making that connection with them, which I think for a lot of celebrities, they tend to just look straight and walk to where they're going. So that's the difference. Whereas for him, he was very switched on. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what people are doing. I know what's happening. He's so switched on in his mind. The energy was a force. That was remarkable.
Do you think this is a skill that non-celebrities can have too?
Anyone can have it. It's what we call presence. And this is what I'm coaching people on. It's starting to become a thing. I had a client who said, okay, I need you to coach my direct report. I mean, he's been promoted. He's quite senior now. He needs to have that presence. He's always used to working he's very good at what he does behind the computer. But now he has to talk to a lot more clients, talk to larger teams. He needs presence. So when I spoke to this person that I was going to coach, and he said, yeah, my boss says I need your presence. What is it? It's not a concept that we're taught in school.
Yes.
That not even taught at work. But in the last few years, people are talking about presence. You got to have presence, leadership presence, executive presence. These things have become very prominent in the corporate world. But in our world, Joanne, in our media world, presence is the first thing you learn if you're going to be in front of the camera. It was the first thing that I learned, even though there wasn't a word for it. When I started DJing and being famous, overnight, I was famous. And of course, I just graduated from school. I have no idea what this thing is. But I started watching when we go on stage and I see who is more popular, who gets more fan reaction. And I started interviewing these international celebrities. I see how they walk in. I see how they carry themselves. I see how they respond to people around them. And I just picked it up without any vocabulary or framework for it, but I picked up the sense of it, which then I realized that when I go on stage, I need to have that presence. When I walk into a room, you need to have people look at you. I have to walk in with presence, which I now, because I started at such a young age, I do it all the time. And, it just comes very naturally. So now I'm deconstructing it for the corporate world in terms of how they walk into a room, to have that presence that people look in them and go, okay, this is the boss. Okay, we need to listen to you. Or we just want to watch you. Because that kind of attention is so powerful now.
And probably not many people are comfortable to have that attention on them, right?
I don't know if it's an Asian thing. I used to think it was an Asian thing because we're taught to don't be an attention seeker, be humble.
Keep your head low.
Don't make so much noise, be quiet, which doesn't work for us now as Asians. But I also have clients from non-Asian countries, Western countries, who also feel very uncomfortable with this attention thing. So I think it's probably upbringing. So I had a client from a non-Asian country. He said, yeah, growing up, we were always told children should be seen and not heard. I was like, even for you, that's what I was told. I didn't realize it happened for you as well. So if you grow under that kind of conditioning,
right, okay,
you mustn't be heard. And even then, you mustn't be seen as well because you must be humble. Don't draw attention. If you grow up with that kind of conditioning, that if you do the opposite, you're a bad person, you're arrogant, you're, in Singapore, they used to have this word, so yaya papaya, right? Because you walk like you own the world. It's very hard to break out of that.
Right.
Because every time you do it, you feel like your body is telling you, oh no, I'm being bad. People are not going to like me. So now it's my job to coach people to get out of this because this is so important, the visibility. And I can feel myself getting very passionate about this.
Okay.
The visibility is so important if you want to, for your career progression. You want to be seen because people say, oh, I just let my work speak for itself. Your work it can't speak for itself because everybody's good at what they do. Your boss doesn't have time to go and say, hey, what did you do? Let me investigate your work and see how good you are. Make it easy for people to know what you do, know what value you bring, and how you can help them.
And you're saying that having presence can address all that?
It's part of the larger picture of personal brand.
Okay, tell me more.
Okay, so I see as personal brand is the umbrella, right? When you show up, what's your personal brand? Meaning, what do people think of you? What do you stand for?
Right.
And underneath personal brands, all these things like your confidence, presence, and then underneath all that is things like authenticity, your image, how do you show up? So all this is part of what you bring with you. It doesn't matter what company you're at or which stage in life you're in, but you have that personal brand that moves with you and evolves with you. So I'm going to give you two examples. Elon Musk. Very strong personal brand. Very strong. It used to be he would tweet about, I think it was Dogecoin, an alternate crypto coin. He'll tweet about it and the price would just shoot up the roof because that's how people loved him, right? And everyone's like, oh, Elon Musk. And then he when he unveils like Tesla, I mean, he's such an amazing marketing strategist. It's amazing. And people say, oh, what's he doing? He knows more than you. But when he bought Twitter X and he started changing and doing things, people start to jump on the bandwagon like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's not very negative, but it's still a strong personal brand. And he can get a lot of things done with his personal brand. So it doesn't matter, at that level, right? It's a strong personal brand. And you take someone like Richard Branson, also a strong personal brand. When he talks about something, everyone hears it, everyone, it brings things to the spotlight. So that strong personal brand overrides a lot of what you can or can't do. Let me be very careful how I say it. It takes time to build that brand. It takes competence, credibility, achievement, success, all these things, right? To build that personal brand. But once you've had that personal brand, people trust you already, and they'll believe that whatever you do is great.
Okay.
Even if it's ordinary, it's great because of your brand.
Is it necessary for like just someone who is not in leadership or executive position to have a personal brand? Or do you think it's just more useful for someone who is in that executive position to have it?
So if you're in a leadership position, executive position, you definitely have to have it. Now, it didn't used to be so important maybe 20 years ago because the company brand was the most important. I remember we used to spend hours and hours, no, not hours, months looking at the logo, the fonts, the colors, the positioning. Wow, all this was so important. And everything was about the brand. What you say, how you represent the brand, it's always a company brand. But things have changed. The culture has changed worldwide. That is about personal brand. People follow people. So now if you want to be in any sort of leadership, any sort of influential position, you have to have that personal brand. If you feel, oh no, I don't want, I'm comfortable where I'm at, doing what I'm doing. But in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, will you still have the same job? Will you still be doing what you're doing? If you want to try something different, maybe you have a different interest, you want to start baking and selling it, your personal brand helps you to opens those doors.
Right.
So even for the individual person, it's good to have your own brand. So at least people know what you stand for, what you're about, and it builds trust faster.
Okay. How do you start to build it?
This takes a lot of effort and time. There's several things. Okay, I can't give the whole plan, right? The whole map in like 2 sentences, but one of the things that people are concerned about is how do I stay authentic whilst I have that brand? And you have to be authentic because if you're putting out, there's a difference between persona and personal brand. Some people have a persona. That's what they do when they're in public. And a lot of celebrities will have, right? It's that persona, it's a public persona. That's a different thing. Your personal brand for especially if you're in the corporate world, is what people think of and what people assign to you when they think of you. So you have to start with, and I always think of it as the base, right? Your authenticity, which is things that are you. What are your strengths? What are your goals? What's your values? What's your purpose? What's your mission? What's your passions? All these things. You have to be very self-aware. What are these things for you? And that's where you start building your own personal brand.
Has it happened with your clients where they confuse personal brand with their company brand, like the company mission, and it's not them, but it's more like what the company stands for?
I think a lot of people are in that position. So it was a workshop that I did recently where I could tell, I mean, the company expects them to have a certain face or certain facade, but they feel like, oh, I'm not really being who I am. But then if that happens, and this is why I start with authenticity, right? Start with where you are first. Sometimes it's the way you're seeing it. Sometimes it's the job role that doesn't sit right with you. It could be so many things. So if there's no alignment, go to the symptom of what is not aligned. Is it the actual job that you're doing? Is it the expectations of the role? Is it how you need to appear to people? You have to pretend to be, a networking extrovert when actually you just want to stay home and watch TV and eat chips. So what exactly is that issue? And then work from there.
After you recognize that, what else? What can be the next step?
It depends on what the challenge is.
Right.
So if you give me a scenario, then we can.
So if, for example, it's just a lack of confidence, like I don't know, I mean, I don't know if I'm just creating a hypothetical situation here. Let's just say I've been working in this company for a long time, and I'm just doing what the boss tells me to do, and I'm not very confident with my work. I mean, I get a lot of affirmation from what people say. Like when they say it's good, then I think it's good. But I don't really have my own measure. And so like suddenly, if I want to build my personal brand now, all of a sudden it's like never even thought about it. But maybe I do think that someday I might not stay with this company, or this company might not hire me forever. So then I probably need to build this personal brand for myself so that I can find a job elsewhere or do something elsewhere with it. How can this person start thinking about how to build that personal brand?
So the fact that think about it, that's a start. because a lot of people still don't think about it.
Right.
So we think, okay, I want to build something. I know something's missing, and I see people doing so well and getting, accolades and attention. Our job is we're equal standards, but they get more promotions, they get accolades. Remember what I said? It's about your personal brand. That sometimes people promote you or see you or think you're great because of the brand. So the person who my work is equal to them, how come I'm not where they are? So that's that frustration. Very often I see people, instead of thinking, okay, what can I do? They start to think that person is crap. That person's just an attention seeker. That person is all talk, no action. So they direct that frustration at that person, and they start, and it's vicious. They start spreading vicious gossip about that person and saying this person is this and trying to smear that person, thinking that when I say terrible things, when I point out terrible things about this person, I would feel better. And maybe they feel better when they have an audience and they say, yeah, that person is, and other people, yeah. And they get together and they're miserable. Yeah, the person's awful. But nothing's changed for them.
Right.
In fact, they're bringing their own energetic baseline down. They're becoming more and more miserable. So the fact that you're aware, like, okay, I need to do something about it, that's the first step. I want to do something about it. Okay, I'm not very confident. I don't really like the attention. I'm nothing. That's self-awareness.
Right.
Start being aware of, okay, these are things I don't have yet. Not like I am not confident. It's I'm not confident yet. I don't have confidence yet. It's different. The words have power. I'm going to say that again. Words have power. The words you say to yourself about yourself, that's so important. So if you keep saying that, I'm not confident, I'm not good at speaking, I don't like networking, this is telling you all the things that you're bad at, and that's what you believe. But it's just changing the words.
Right.
And it doesn't happen right away, right? You just start changing the way you're saying it, because then you stop seeing it as a battle. I have to arm myself to walk into the networking room. It's different, right? It's not arm myself. It's just that, okay, I'm ready. I have questions ready. I want to know what people think of the event. I want to know who they know. So I'm curious. So you're going in with curiosity instead of, I'm ready to fight. So it makes a world of difference, because that's your state. So for this person, back to this person who wants to sound their personal brand, start identifying your strengths. Because if you lack confidence, that means you don't feel all that certain in your abilities. And confidence comes from certainty of your abilities. That's the very basic. So start marking out what are your strengths, what are you very good at, and leverage on that.
Does it help if you ask people around you?
Yes, that's always a practice. So I'll always tell my clients, and even the workshops I've done recently, start with your strengths right now. Write down your top 5 strengths, and then go and ask 5 people that you know well. It could be your boss, your former boss, a mentor, a peer that you work with, people that you trust their judgment and you know they can be objective. Ask them, hey, what are my strengths? What are my top? Okay, 5 could be a lot for someone to think, but you can just ask them, what are my top 3 strengths? And quite often they can, give you a few. Sometimes you kind of go, what? You won't understand what he's saying? Then ask them for the context. What was the event or what was the situation where you saw this strength? Then they give you the context. You get a better understanding of what they're seeing.
Right.
And that, when you have like all these different views coming in, it gives you a composite picture of your strengths. And that can be very uplifting. So I recommend that, because I went through it. I did it. I was like, wow, I didn't realize that people saw these as my strengths. Things I thought were like, nah. They're like, oh, that's a strength. It's like, wow. Then you realize you had these skills and strengths and value that you're not magnifying for yourself. That's a very powerful exercise. So
okay, so start with the strengths. That's how you start to build confidence. And then
start with knowing your strengths,
knowing
what value you bring to other people. Then you get more certain in what you have. So that's one of the things. And depends on what is the confidence you want to build in, because in every different thing is different, right? So for public speaking, if it's confidence, obviously I would say with this person, what is holding you back? What are you fearful of? What's in anxiety? Then we can work from where you are. What are the blocks you have? How to release those blocks, move around them, think differently, and then move forward. And then we always work on having a blueprint for how you want to approach this specific situation.
What is the common fear or people have or obstacle people have when it comes to public speaking?
It's always, I don't want to sound stupid.
Right.
I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to make a mistake. What if I blank out? What if they ask me a question and I can't answer? So these are the most common ones. A lot of it is about how I'm going to look. And it's normal, right? We all care about how we look to people. Even people say, oh, I don't give a, well, what people think. Of course, we all care. We are wired to care about what other people think of us because we cannot exist on our own. It's just wired in us to different degrees. Some people care a lot more than others. So it's always about how I look. And that's a fear. And the fear, a lot of it's imagined fears for people.
But it's true. What happens if I say something stupid, right? And then what happens if they ask a question I can't answer? It sounds, if I were to put myself in that position, it does sound very plausible and very daunting.
Yes, it is very daunting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you help them overcome that?
So then I'll turn your attention away from these questions or these thoughts. I'll turn you away from that and get you thinking about something else.
What do you mean? Like I don't know, dolphins in a lagoon? What do you think?
No. I'm trying to think of how to work it without.
Because you see, the thing is, I noticed, I have to give some context as well where my 9-year-old daughter has the same fear. She's 9. And in fact, before that, when she was, 2 years ago, when she had to do some presentation in front of the class and all that, there's always this fear. Or even when the school recommends, you can submit like a story reading and, in a video format. She's just very reluctant to do it because of this fear. I've got to say this and then everybody's going to look at me and I don't want people to look at me.
She said that?
Yeah. And then even in front of the class, sometimes when they have to present like the show and tell thing. And, there's that fear that, what is your biggest fear? That, my classmates will be looking at me. Of course, maybe at their age, they might not be able to articulate so specifically what the exact concern is, but there is a concern of some sort, that, and then there's also, I work with some of the young children and I recently had a camp where all of them designed their costumes and I said, come out with your costumes and a lot of them, and it's their parents who will be watching and they're just afraid, being in front of other people. They don't even need to speak. They have this fear. Much less those who actually have to stand in front and they have to deliver something. I think it can be very daunting, not just for adults, even for the children. So that's why I'm thinking it sounds very similar what you're sharing about the adults' concern, how people look at me. Will I say something stupid? From the kids' point of view, it's like, will my friends laugh at me? And what if I forget? So it sounds very similar. And I think if there are strategies that we can use even for ourselves and we can help our kids overcome that, I think that'll be very useful.
It's very different, I think, for kids and adults. With children, there are some children who are very comfortable just going out and showcasing, right? It's also a personality thing, but it's also a conditioning. What's happening in their homes? We don't really know. And I don't know what happens in everybody's homes, but there would always be something that happened, whether it's in the homes or in the school, in the classroom, or maybe even amongst their friends when they're playing. Something has happened where they sort of put themselves out there and the reaction was not so good. Whether people laugh, whether they said something and people laughed at them, or that can be very, very painful for someone to go through. So for a child, I can't really say what do you do in general for children because everyone's situation is different. So when I work with the adults, I usually try to get them to identify what was the most emotional, painful thing that got them feeling like this. And quite often, everyone can remember that key moment or 2 moments. And then we go back and we unlock it. Because as a child, when something happens, you can't process it, right? Because you don't have the tools. You just have that feeling and it's icky. And sometimes even parents try and help, but it's hard because it's still there. Or sometimes parents don't even realize that happened. Or teachers don't even realize that happened. So it stays with them in the body for years and years. So it's just a way of unlocking it. There's a lot of studies and interest now in this thing called childhood trauma. Like everything's a trauma now.
Yes.
Big T, small t. I'm like, okay. So I used to scoff at it years ago. I'm like, come on, just suck it up. Everyone has bad things happen. Suck it up. But then when I started reading a lot more about it and seeing it, I realized, this can really impact how you respond to situations. And it's only when I'm not a therapist, so I don't go deep into it, but I just need to know 1 or 2 things that have caused you to feel this way. Not think this way, feel this way. And it's something that happened when you're younger. And we just need to do a few things to unlock it, where you now don't feel the same way about it. And that releases some of that tension And then we'll go into the next step. Depending on them, what's the next step? What is it they need next? So that's how we unlock it.
So you're saying that in order to overcome that list of fears that you gave them, the common fears that people have when it comes to public speaking, it's about unlocking that trauma or that thing that's...
For some. I can't say it's for everyone. There are also certain... it's something that I go quite deep into, is communication styles. We all have a different communication style. And it's just the way we are wired. Which is why some people love going on stage. They feel very comfortable. They love going to networking events, talking and being the center of attention. And we all have friends and we see people like that. And it's great to have them at parties because they'll always get the conversation going. They'll be talking, people will be laughing, and that's great. So that's their style. There's some people who could never be like that. It's like, but they like to, watch and be part of that group. So that's their communication style. They don't want to take the attention. They just want to be supportive and, your drink, you need a drink. They want to take care of you. That's their style. And there's some people who are very direct in what they say. It's no nonsense. They just say as it is. They're very clear. They come across as quite assertive, or some people say very abrasive, but that's the communication style. So these are things that are a little bit kind of natural in us, but it doesn't mean we can't adjust these styles. We can. We have the capacity and the versatility to have different styles for the different contexts. And it's something I call communication versatility. So for example, if I'm speaking in a high stakes meeting with people who are very senior, CEO level, chairman level, I will be the person who speaks very directly and very concise and very certain, very clear. But if I'm meeting let's say direct reports who are 2 or 3 levels down, new hires, newbies, I wouldn't have that style because they'll be so terrified.
Yes.
I'll have that different style of being more nurturing, softer, smiling a lot more, talking about stories a little bit more, getting them to talk about stories, which if you sit in this boardroom CEO space, no one has time. So it's you got to adjust it. A simple analogy is when I go to the hawker center. My favorite uncle, hey, today how? You speak in a more colloquial language that creates that rapport with him.
Right.
But when I go for an event where a thought leader from, the UK, from Cambridge is speaking, I'm not going to say, hey, I'm going to be, oh, hello, Mr. Smith. Oh, I really loved your book. It's very different. The language, the tone, the words are different because I want to connect at that level.
Right.
I wouldn't bring that same style to my favorite hawker uncle, right? So it's communication versatility. So sometimes people say, oh, you're going to speak, oh, just be yourself.
Oh, yes, this is so common. This is very, very common. Just be yourself.
I have a headache when people say that because it's become like a platitude that people say, just be yourself. Some experts said it, everyone just uses it. Without that context, it's very flippant and very superficial. And it's true. You want to be authentic. You don't want to pretend to be someone else and speak like someone else. But just being yourself, you can't be yourself in every situation. To be honest, because as we deal with different people at different contexts, different occasions, at work, at social life, at play, at family, you have to adjust yourself to suit that context because communication is about getting a message across and letting people understand what you want to say. And that's why it's always about observing the other person. How do I adjust my message so that they receive it well? Instead of just saying what I want to say and, you didn't get it, you didn't understand me. It's on me that you didn't understand me. So communication versatility is so important. And just being yourself, sometimes people use it as an excuse to, I said that way because I'm just being myself. No, you're just rude.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I like how you say it, like communication versatility, because when you were explaining the context of how you switch your styles, I'm thinking, playing devil's advocate here, and there will be people who will go like, but that's so fake, but she doesn't talk like that. When, obviously when I see the context of you ordering food from the hawker uncle, you talk in that way. And then, I'm in a work setting with you. And then I see you talk to the uncle that way, and then you talk to me this way. I'll be like, yeah, but you're so fake. You don't talk like that all the time. So I like that when you break it down and you explain it as it's about communication versatility. I mean, that just hits the nail on the spot. It just hits the nail on, because for me, I do believe in that as well. Because when we are talking to different people, obviously we got to adjust our tone, our accent even, and how the words we use so that people can understand. And I do agree as well that sometimes when you say, just be yourself, first of all, it's very hard because there are people who don't even know what does it mean to be yourself, right? What is myself? And the other thing is also it just sounds like the easy way out because it's easier to just so-called be yourself. You should understand me, not I should try to help you understand me. Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's what
A
I
lot of
think.
times, the people who are like, oh, but you don't speak like that. Why you're so fake? Because they only have one style and they can't adjust. So they feel uncomfortable when they hear you having different styles. They think that you are being fake. But remember, usually they'll never say, if let's say we talk like this, and then I hear you speak to the hawker uncle, hey uncle, people never say, hey, why are you so fake to him? Right?
Yeah.
It's never
Yeah.
more casual. It's only when you want to be more you want to sound more
Professional.
intelligent, professional, educators, maybe you speak with a little bit more of a English accent because you just want to enunciate your words better. People are like, oh, why you put an accent? And it's true. I've had someone who said the same thing, like we were talking, and obviously it's a Singaporean, so, and very local. So, I localize myself. I can be very local and I'm comfortable being local. And then someone came to the office and he was from, I think, the UK. And I want to make sure that I speak at your level so you don't, it's just
Yes.
also me, right? I'll make sure
Yes.
I'm at your level when I speak. So of course I spoke to him in this way, in a slightly different manner in the way I pronounce my words.
Right.
And this Singaporean friend after said, hey, how come you speak to Ang Mo guy, your accent got accent. And it's in that tone.
Right.
You know why you speak, right? So you kind of
Yes.
know that it's something that they don't understand and they can't do because they don't understand the bigger context of communication. As I said, it's about me adjusting myself so that you understand me better.
Right. Is there any strategy to hone this skill to be able to be versatile in your communication style?
Have interact with more people of different backgrounds and styles.
All right. Because it does come quite naturally to me, I realize. So I don't know if for someone who isn't so comfortable doing it, that it is actually a challenge to be able to switch. I used to think it was called code switching, right? But you've just given me the perfect term for it, which is just switching up your communication style. So I'm just wondering, for someone who is just one way of communicating throughout with everyone, like is there any way to? I mean, other than you said, I mean, you communicate with many different people, right? But they still use that same way. That's not going to help them learn how to.
Do they want to? The first
Right.
thing is, do they want to? Because if someone doesn't want to change it, they won't change it. And it's fine. And it's fine if you don't want to. If you're comfortable with that, it gives you the results you want. That's fine.
Right. Hey. I hope you've been enjoying the episode so far. We really appreciate your support. So do like this video on YouTube and give us a 5 stars on Spotify. This tells us what you're looking out for and helps us produce even better content for all of you. Now, back to the episode. So, the thing about being confident, there's always this very fine line between being confident and being overconfident and hence arrogant. Like, how do we strike that balance?
Okay. So being confident is when you are certain in your skills and abilities and what you've done. Anyone who's, let's say, even if they're a shy person, but they're very good at baking, watch how they're baking. You see the air of confidence. You hear them talk about baking, they're confident, right? They're very certain in their ability. Arrogance is when you feel superior to others. That's the arrogance. Like, I am better than you at this. It's that air of superiority. And and they're not opposite ends. People think the opposite of being, people think that, sorry, the word is humble. I must be humble, So the idea of being confident, it's going to be arrogant. But humble and confidence are not opposite of each other. Confident is a totally different family. Humble and arrogant, that's the opposite of each other. But we are so trained to be humble and don't do this. A lot of people want to keep downplaying themselves.
Yes.
And some people feel more comfortable doing that. And that makes them feel uncomfortable when someone talks about their achievements. But if someone says it in a matter of fact way, in a way that they can help you, no one's going to call it arrogant. It only sounds arrogant if they feel that you make me feel less than you.
Do you think it's also like us putting it on the person. For example, if I think you're arrogant, actually it's me putting this on you, not necessarily because you are truly arrogant, but maybe because I'm insecure about myself. And therefore, whatever you're saying sounds to me like it doesn't make me feel good because I feel inferior, right, to whatever you're saying. Not necessarily because you are bragging about your abilities and achievements.
Yeah.
But it's just me putting it on you.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens as well. People who have that insecurity would feel that this person's arrogant, or would feel that jealousy at this person, or it's all what you think about a person comes from actually what you feel. It often is about projection. So for someone who always says, "Oh, this person is so this, that person is so that," be very wary when you meet someone who's always like dissing other people. There's a lot going in there,
Right.
and that's why it comes out that way. But I'll also say sometimes, and I've seen how people speak the way they project, and they don't realize that they're coming across arrogant. And sometimes it's in the tone, in the way they say it. And unfortunately for women, when we feel strongly about something and we speak with a lot more energy and heightened and intensity, it often gets labeled as she's so aggressive, she's arrogant, why she's so hangry, you see that, right? When actually she's just talking with passion.
Can you give me an example of like saying something, expressing it, and then the same thing sounding arrogant and the same thing sounding confident?
So I won the state championship 3 times in a year versus I won the state championship 3 times in a year. I mean, that's just a very off the top example, but it's just the tone. I'm just
Right.
using tone now. And you can feel, right, when the first one I said it was kind of matter of fact, I won it 3 times in a year. It's just matter of fact, but you don't just end it, right? You want to add on something, and that helped our team to score this, and that made my parents very proud of me. So that's when it doesn't sound arrogant. You're sharing an achievement. Oh, it's like a story. But you say, oh, I won the state championship 3 times in a year. It was me, right? That's arrogant. So it's also the tone, right? Like the way it's pushed across, like I did this.
Right.
So it is a nuance sometimes, but for some people it's quite obvious when they're being arrogant.
Right.
But I think these days a lot of people are a lot more conscious of it. I don't see it happening as often as it used to like 10 years ago.
You don't see what happening as
I see people are a lot more conscious about being arrogant now.
I do think people are downplaying it though. A lot of times, like you said, like we have been taught to be humble, that we shouldn't show off, right? And then there's this fear of showing off, of being arrogant, of being overconfident. And I think as a result of that, sometimes like in that whole process of wanting to downplay ourselves, that we develop, I don't know if it's a natural development, but then we develop this imposter syndrome because we don't have the confidence, or because we want to downplay everything that we know or we have.
So the downplaying becomes a little bit of inferiority, right? But imposter syndrome, and this is something that a lot of my clients have, very often it is the high achievers who have imposter syndrome. Because high achievers are always, oh, I want to go do the next thing. I want to be better. I want to get that next thing. You're always pushing yourself. You're always pushing yourself to go to a space that's not comfortable, that's new, that, because you want to go on to the next level. And then when they get there, they're like, oh my God, oh, I don't belong here. Look at everyone else. They're so accomplished. They're so experienced. They've all done this. Those thoughts give you imposter syndrome. So it's a 2-factor thing, pushing yourself to uncomfortable positions, which is great, but then comparing yourself with people who are there.
Right.
And people who have imposter syndrome compare a lot. A lot of high achievers compare a lot. I think that's why we keep striving. So if you stop looking at that, people who are so accomplished, and just think, and this is what I worked with all my clients, high achiever, doing very well, and I'm like, hey, you already have that seat at the table. You better own your seat at the table. Because if you're not going to own it, there's a long line of other people who can't wait to grab it from you. How would you feel if someone took it from you? And as a high achiever, you're like, I'm not going to let anyone take it from me. So own your seat at the table.
How do you do that? What do you mean by owning your seat at the table?
What is it you have now? Own it. Don't go, oh, no la, it was just luck. Oh, no, I don't know when it's going to be taken away. These thoughts make you fearful. But when you go, okay, I'm here right now, I've achieved this is what I have, I'm moving on to something else. This is what I have. No one can take it away from me. These skills, these talents, these abilities, these strengths, I own it. I have it. It's brought me to where I am.
I suppose believing that you deserve it, right?
Yes, because
That
otherwise you wouldn't be here.
So that's one of the ways to overcome imposter syndrome.
I think the main way is stop comparing. Comparison is a thief of joy.
I like this phrase. I do have some personal tips now on how to help with the communication for children, but it's that fear of, because sometimes for me, I personally don't really have that fear of an audience, right? So I don't know what a person who is fearful of the audience would feel like. So for a child like who is afraid of the audience, like it's more specifically that, like how to overcome that fear of like the audience.
I'll share an example, obviously as an adult client, but this came from as far back as she could remember as a child. She always had that fear. But eventually she realized, and she's happy for me to share, Sharon, she realized she's very good at what she's done. So this fear can live for a long time. And they can build skills in other areas and they build confidence in other areas. She's very good in the finance world where she is. And she realized, wow, I'm getting invitations to speak on stages. But that fear comes back, that childhood fear that she had for a long time that she always didn't want to. So one of the things, like I said, we unlock what is that incident that makes you fearful. But we also unlocked other things. Like I worked with her in terms of that emotion. That fear is an emotion. Where is it? What's happening there? So we worked with that. But we also have a strategy for her to practice it. Now, a lot of people say to be good at public speaking, practice. Practice what? Oh, you need these techniques. Speak louder, speak slower. Which tip would move the needle for you? So that's when, and I recommend getting like someone who's an expert to give you the feedback, to guide you on when you are practicing it. You do it once and the person can give you the adjustments. Then you do it again. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. And that's how you build that skill. And then it becomes confidence. Because public speaking is also a skill. For me, it's something I learned as a child when I started being a radio DJ. Not child, teenager. Actually, as a child, because I went on stage and started doing stage performances. So it was like a skill I was picking up. I was doing it over and over again. So even for her, so she was preparing for this huge She Loves Tech conference. And it's a big thing, right? It's a big conference. So we did these strategies where it's a combination of, as I said, we unlocked what was the thing that was blocking her. We've dealt with the emotion that was making her like feel like she's choking. She doesn't want to speak. And then you do the strategy. Okay, this is your blueprint. This is, for you, for some people, you have your points. You just say it over and over again. And that helps. When you're starting, don't just off the cuff. Have your points so you are familiar with the words you're going to say. Say it again. Say it again.
In where? How do you say
You write
in
it
front
down.
of the mirror or like?
Oh, don't practice in front of the mirror. People say practice in front. Why? Because when you go in front of a mirror, look at anyone who looks in front of a mirror. Suddenly they're very self-conscious, right? You're very self-conscious. You have a phone. Everyone has a phone now. Record yourself. And just practice so you do it. Better still, if you have someone who can watch and then give you the feedback. Okay, adjust this, slow down here. Okay, then you do it again. Because that motion of doing it over and over again is not so scary anymore. You're doing it. So it's a combination of physical confidence, emotional confidence, and also mental, unlocking the mental blocks. It's these three things. So when she did the conference, she went up and she was so pleased because she said for the first time, she had always rejected, but she went up. She said, for first time, I didn't feel so fearful. And I actually enjoyed speaking because she felt confident in, the motions that she was doing, saying it over and over again. And she knew what to expect. She actually could enjoy it. And she could look at the audience and feel good. And I was so proud of her.
Would you be able to give some examples of some, like the fear like a fear and then how you unlock that fear?
It's very different for different people. So I can't really say, okay, how you do it. Because you need to understand what is that fear. And that's why I ask a lot of questions to unlock it.
So if I, like, for example, with my daughter, right, am I able to help her unlock that fear?
Sometimes it's harder when it's the parent.
Okay.
For children to listen to parent because they listen to you for some things, but something like that, maybe they want to give a good front to you. So it's even more pressure.
Or what kind of questions can I ask her then?
Ask her,
if she said, okay, I'm just afraid of my classmates will laugh at me, then like how can I follow up?
Ask her, has this happened?
If she says no, or then it's not real, it's an imagined fear.
Then you ask her, have you seen it happen to someone else?
Okay.
It's just eliciting, just trying to get answers to get to the root of what is it she's actually afraid of. So I can't give the example until I know how the person's answering. So, but when you unlock it, it can make a difference. And I see in Sharon now, right? Now she's written her book, Why Women Don't Talk About Money, and she's doing her book launch and going out and being interviewed, and she looks so comfortable.
Right.
Because we had unlocked what was like her fear. And I think with the child, you want to keep asking questions to understand where is this fear coming from. Maybe it didn't happen to them. Maybe it did. Maybe they saw it happen to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's that fear of the expectation that maybe it's the teacher. They don't want to disappoint the teacher. We never know what exactly it is. And everyone has a very different. All the clients I speak to, the thing that stops them, that experience is so different for everyone. But often it comes from the same thing. Either people laughing at them or people rejecting them. It could come in the form of laughter, it could come in the form of disapproval, it could come in the form of, anything, but it was a sense of rejection.
Is this usually imagined or is it real?
Usually they've seen something or they felt something that make them have that fear.
So if it's a situation where they have experienced it, then how can they unlock that?
And it depends on what the situation is.
Oh.
Yeah. But I think it's a good start to know where is the source of this fear.
I do think sometimes it can be very irresponsible for us to say, no, that's not going to happen, or like when they say that they're afraid that their friends will laugh at them, and then we just go like, has it happened? They say no, then don't worry about it, because obviously they are worried about it. And
but then that has invalidated them.
Yeah, exactly. So
don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's never happened. Why are you afraid? It's invalidating.
So that's why I am just thinking whether or not there are some, like there's a better way that we can help children, but we can ask the right questions. We can help them solve this problem without being irresponsible, or without invalidating their feelings and dismissing it off as it's no
something
big
we
deal.
all grew up with.
I mean, because it can be daunting.
Yes.
Even though I have to admit, I personally don't resonate with that. Like, I don't have that fear, but it doesn't mean that other people don't. So it is very hard for me to go into that mindset of understanding why it would be.
Why don't you have that fear?
I think I've done a lot of it when I was young, and I've never really been laughed at. I've never really froze on stage. And even during the times when I don't feel I'm good enough or I'm confident, like everybody thinks it's great, I think that's probably the reason why.
Yeah. Because your experience is that you've never been laughed at. You've never froze. You never had a bad experience with it.
Yeah.
So you don't have that fear.
And maybe it's also personality, I guess. My father has always said this about me when I was 8 or 9, and we have this girl Thai, and he just joked and he said, "Oh, you want to go up and sing?" I said, "Okay." And I just went up like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask me, I don't know where that came from at that age. I can't articulate to you at what was going on in my mind at 8 or 9. But to me, it was like, oh, okay, let's just go up and sing. I've been singing at home anyway. It's just a different place. Maybe I had no context of like, oh, there's an audience, it's a stage and all. To me, it's just singing. Yeah. So maybe it's my personality as well. And also coupled with the fact that I've never had a bad experience when it comes to public speaking.
It's a combination. There's some people, even as children, they just don't like singing. They don't like that performance sense. And if imagine, so at the age of 8, you have no context of an audience or being embarrassed, no context of it. So there's no fear. So you go up and you sing and it was great. But can you imagine you went out, you sing and people laughed and, said it was not good? That would make you feel the pain.
Yes.
And then you would never want to do it again.
Yes.
You never want to go in front again.
Yeah.
It could be anything that happened. That it's the interpretation as a child, right? It could be true or not true, but it's the child's interpretation that causes those feelings. And those feelings later on as an adult, it causes you to think, right? Your emotions and your thoughts just can link each other for good or for bad.
I love that. Do you have any other tips, book recommendations, websites, or
so many
personal favorites?
So many. I'm a lifelong learner, so even in my space, I'm always reading about different things about public speaking and personal development. I'm huge on that. So I think when it comes to, I'm trying to think of a really good book for. Okay, I'm going to share this book. So, not specific to public speaking or confidence, but I think it's so powerful for us. You, the high achiever, I'm talking to you. because we always want to be a better version of ourselves. We're always looking at the future, like, what could I do? What could I achieve? How can it be better? And to make that a reality is hard. It's very hard. You have to change a lot of your habits, adjust a lot of the way you think and your perspectives. So there's a book called Be Your Future Self Now. It's by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And we're connected on LinkedIn. I'm so happy. He's written a lot of really good books, but this book I find is very good for when you want to have a strategy or you want to understand how do you start bringing what you want to be now. So it's science, it's art, it's like, your mindset, your mental space, your emotional state. So it was a very good guide. I like it. So I've read it twice, and I shall read it again probably the end of this year. Because every time I read it, I get new things.
Wonderful. That's a great book. I think I'm gonna look on Amazon straight away after this. Okay, thank you so much. I mean, before you go, we want to let our listeners know where they can find you.
LinkedIn, Georgina Chang. I post a lot about what I observe about people's challenges. I post a lot about personal development. Or the website, georginachang.com. I'm on Instagram as well.
You offer coaching services?
Yes, I do one-on-one, and I also do group coaching workshops.
Yay! Thank you so much for coming. Before you go, I've got a little surprise gift for you.
A surprise gift?
Yes.
Wow, all this and a gift?
There you go. Okay. This is for you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. This is amazing. And I really recommend doing this because, you make your guests feel so good, right? When you think of them and you give them something. Everyone loves presents.
Yes. I feel like I hit this on the spot too.
Oh no, I don't know. Because you know me as well, so.
Well, kind of, but yeah, okay, I don't know.
I'm so excited. Try not to hit the mic, okay? So pretty, this box. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I love it. Okay, let me. Now you can throw the box away. Look at this. It's from Ritual.
It's in your color.
Yeah, and I love the color. So the color is like great. I love the color. And then it's like all this Ayurvedic stuff that you use to feel good and take care of yourself. I love it. It's like body scrub, shower foam, body cream, and a candle. Love it. Love it. I'm trying to see what flavor it is. It doesn't tell me what flavor.
I think it's just the Ayurvedic scent.
Wow, it's beautiful.
So I picked this. We talk about rituals. And I feel like you're someone who has rituals, like you do rituals stuff. So I thought this was quite apt. And then I was like picking the scent and the because every scent has got like a meaning behind it as well. So looking at the selection, I was like, I think, I wanted to find something very botany because I always remember you gave me plants. And they are the best gifts because they're still growing.
Oh, that's amazing. I gave her a herb garden thing.
and I think spinach, right? Or
several plants, yeah.
Yes, several plants, and they're all growing so well. I think I'm lucky that I've got a green fingers helper at home. And so and I wanted to find something like botanical, something like plant-based. And this came up because, Ayurvedic, taking care of yourself, rituals. I thought it's quite you.
It is me. You hit it on the nail on the head. Yeah. I always talk about rituals, your pre-performance rituals, and then
self-care and all that.
Self-care, and I love it. I love the smelling, all this, and plants. So wow, well done.
Yay! It's like it's hard sometimes because I don't know some of the guests.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, I have to guess. I have to like.
It's hard. It's hard.
And then sometimes it will end up just what I hope for them. Like my wish for them, or what I think they could have in their life, or something like that. So sometimes it's that. So with you, maybe. Yeah, a little easier in that sense.
Yeah, that's very sweet. Thank you. I am not good at giving gifts, so I always just buy like chocolates because I love chocolates. I think I love this chocolate. Here you go.
Well, thank you so much for coming. Yeah, I hope you had fun.
Thank you for having me. And enjoyed this like our catch up.
Yes,
which we'll do a proper one.
Yes, we will.
Again, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching and listening. Bye.
Bye.
I'd like to thank Georgina once again for joining us today. As always, it's a pleasure talking to her because I gained so much from her wisdom. And it's always nice to see a familiar face. I'm sure this episode will be so helpful for many of you as it has for me. I learned something new today as well. If you'd like to join us for the next episode, hit the follow button and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. If you're tuning in on YouTube, comment your thoughts down below and hit the thumbs up. and the subscribe button as well. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode of What Do I Know with me, Joanne Peh.